Chapter 1611. At the Hoffman residence in Jacaster. Sean, along with Gavin and Zachary, were having breakfast in the dining room. After a night's rest, they didn't seem like they had been kidnapped at all. Instead, they appeared to be enjoying themselves and looked quite lively. "Mr. Gideon, I want to have short ribs," Zachary confidently ordered, already having a considerable number of empty plates in front of him. Gavin glanced at Zachary and then called out to the busy butler in the kitchen, "Mr. Gideon, I would like some too. I also want to have squid ink pasta." "Of course, please wait a moment. I'll get right on it," the Hoffman family's butler cheerfully responded. He didn't mind the trouble at all and immediately turned around to continue preparing delicious food for the children. Sean glanced over, raising an eyebrow slightly. He spoke softly to the two boys, "That's enough, you two. Can you really eat all of that?" It wasn't that he was particularly concerned about the butler, but rather, he was worried that the two boys might overeat. "It would be a shame not to eat as much as we can. Besides, you can have some if we can't finish it all." "Don't you want to eat?" Zachary retorted with a mouthful of food. With an indulgent smile, Sean said, "Of course I want to eat." "All right, if you can't finish it all, I'll take care of it." Gideon's culinary skills were no less than the chef at Yaleview. Besides, they were confined here and couldn't do much. They had plenty of idle time, so they might as well indulge themselves. "I wonder if Mommy has realized we're missing yet?" Gavin asked, his eyebrows furrowed in worry. He was concerned that Arissa would be anxious if she found out. At the moment, they were unable to contact home. They should be able to manage for a while. As long as they cooperate well, Mommy won't find out so soon. Zachary looked at Gavin with confidence, unaware that Arissa was already on her way. Sean glanced toward the kitchen, lowering his voice to speak to the two boys. "Later, try to persuade the butler and see if you can get hold of a mobile phone. Then, you can get in touch with Tim and the others to let them know that we are still safe for now." Since Gideon was kind to the two boys, perhaps it was an opportunity to obtain a mobile phone. Even if they couldn't escape, they had to inform the children at home about their current situation to alleviate their worries. What would happen next, he didn't know. All he knew was that they had to seize any opportunity to escape. Gavin and Zachary exchanged glances before nodding at Sean. In their minds, they were plotting how to deceive Gideon. Suddenly, there was a noise at the door, as if someone had returned. Sean, Gavin, and Zachary glanced at each other, thinking that Jeremiah had returned. The butler, bustling about in the kitchen, heard the sound of the car and hurriedly emerged. Wiping his hands on his apron, he called out to them before heading toward the door. "Enjoy your meal, I'll go check." The three of them turned around simultaneously, not caring about who the newcomer was, and continued enjoying their breakfast. "Gideon, could you cook me a bowl of pasta? I haven't had breakfast yet." A familiar voice echoed from the entrance, causing Sean to furrow his brow. He turned around and immediately locked eyes with the other person. "Why are you here?" Justin asked aloud, not particularly eager to see Sean simply because Sean was Benjamin's good friend. Sean's lips curled up in a mocking smirk. "Isn't it your good deed that brought me here?" Justin narrowed his eyes, on the verge of responding to Sean, when he noticed the two young boys standing beside him, both of whom were glaring at him. A spark of recognition flickered in Justin's eyes. It appeared that his uncle still held a great deal of concern for him. Indeed, as soon as he had voiced his grievances, his uncle had brought Benjamin's two sons over for him to vent his frustrations on. "What have I done?" Justin understood the situation, but he refused to admit it. He approached and took a seat across from them, covertly assessing them with his eyes. Zachary shot him a glare. "You have the audacity to act but not take responsibility. Why are you pretending to be innocent? You are despicable and shameless, always resorting to intimidating children." Chapter 1612. "What did you say? Do you believe I can make it so you'll never see your father again?" roared Justin, fury burning in his eyes. He leaned forward to grab the little rascal by the collar, but recoiled with a cry of pain. Sean's voice rang out, laced with a tone that was both mocking and amused. "Why so angry, Mr. Rogers?" Zachary merely spoke the truth. You should calm down. It's not very commendable to lash out at a child. Justin held his hand, which Sean had stabbed with a fork just moments ago. If he hadn't pulled back quickly, he would certainly be bleeding profusely by now. Glaring at Sean, Justin furiously declared, "No matter what, the ends justify the means. Now that you've fallen into my hands, don't expect an easy time. Gideon, take them away. Lock them in the doghouse in the backyard, and don't feed them without my orders. I'm curious to see how long you can maintain your arrogance." Despicable, Zachary cursed, utterly disgusted by Justin's actions. Shameless, Gavin also cursed, glaring at Justin without a hint of affection. This man had always been against his father. Sean was indifferent, but he worried about the two little ones suffering. "Justin, that's enough," he said. "They're just children. Benjamin didn't treat you too harshly, and now you want to throw his kids into a doghouse. Are you even human? What exactly are you trying to achieve?" Sean assumed it was Justin's order to have the two boys kidnapped. Hence, he didn't dare to offend him too much. "Not harshly. When have any of you ever shown me mercy? How come I wasn't aware?" Justin glared at them. His home had been bombed, and he had always suspected that Benjamin was behind it, but he had no evidence. "Be honest, was it not your people who bombed my house? Damn it, I almost died in there." Justin's eyes were filled with rage as he wished he could slaughter them right there and then. Upon hearing that, Gavin and Zachary felt their hearts skip a beat. Had they been discovered? Sean looked at Justin's indignant expression with an indifferent gaze, lightly chuckled, and said, "What does your house being bombed have to do with us? If you have the guts, bring out the evidence and directly accuse us. Don't just blame us without any proof. Who knows who you've offended?" If Justin had evidence, he would have sued them long ago instead of resorting to these underhanded tactics. It doesn't matter if you don't admit it, everyone knows the truth. "I'm curious how Benjamin plans to rescue you all." Justin's gaze was menacing, yet he made no further move. Gideon then spoke up. "Mr. Justin, these two young gentlemen were brought here by Mr. Hoffman, please don't frighten them. If there's an issue, let's discuss it calmly. I'll go make some pasta for you first." "Gideon, didn't you hear what they just said about me? They were the ones crossing the line." Justin clearly understood the implication behind the butler's words, but he was deeply upset. "How can I allow outsiders to bully me here on Uncle Jeremiah's turf?" However, he didn't dare to act too recklessly due to his fear of his uncle. Gideon sighed, finding himself compelled to mention Jeremiah once again, cautioning Justin to avoid acting impulsively. "You can decide how to handle this once Mr. Hoffman returns." Turning to Sean and the boys, he said, "Don't mind him. Mr. Justin can be a bit hot-tempered. I'll go prepare some food for you all." Justin stared intently at the trio across from him, and without turning his head, he shouted, "Cook pasta for me first." "Understood, Mr. Justin." The butler responded quickly, hurrying to prepare pasta for Justin. He couldn't afford to waste any time. Justin glanced at Sean and his companions with a smug expression, sarcastically taunting them, "Do you still believe this place belongs to you?" Sean looked away, unwilling to continue looking at Justin as it was ruining his appetite. Gavin and Zachary also averted their gaze, clearly displaying their disdain. Justin's face darkened as he warned, "Just wait until my uncle returns. You'll be in for a surprise. Gideon must have lost his mind to allow you to dine here. Let's wait until your uncle comes back to discuss this. I believe Jeremiah would at least have the basic courtesy to entertain guests." Sean snorted with a laugh. It was only after hearing Gideon's words that he realized he had misunderstood earlier. Justin hadn't ordered the children to be kidnapped, it was actually Jeremiah's command. Sean didn't want to deal with Justin at all until Jeremiah returned. They would discuss everything after meeting Jeremiah. Chapter 1613. Justin's gaze fell upon them, a hint of schadenfreude in his eyes. "I didn't expect Benjamin to send his lackey. Is he too busy to handle his own affairs?" Sean sensed something was wrong, especially since he had just lost contact with Benjamin before the children were kidnapped and brought here. His gaze hardened. "Justin, have you done something? Seeing Sean's anxiety, Justin laughed heartily. I didn't do anything, but something must have happened to him, right? Sean glared at Justin's insolent behavior. He would be foolish to believe Justin's words. Benjamin is not easily defeated. If you release us now, there might still be room for negotiation when he arrives. Otherwise, no one will be able to protect you. Losing a battle didn't mean losing the war, and Sean was not easily intimidated. Is that so, Mr. Bailey? Then we'll see if Benjamin can even make it here alive, Justin asserted confidently. This time, whether Benjamin died or not, he would not come out unharmed. What have you done to my father? Gavin glared at Justin, fearing that Benjamin might have really been harmed by him. Young brat, your father might already be checking in at the underworld. Justin smirked at Gavin. In an instant, tears welled up in Gavin's eyes. His voice choked with emotion as he yelled, "You're lying. Daddy isn't dead, he's still alive. Daddy has merely lost contact. I'm sure he's still alive. How could you be so despicable as to lie to us? Aren't you afraid of consequences?" Although Zachary's face was somewhat calmer than Gavin's, deep down, he was still unsure about Benjamin's safety. Only you would stoop so low as to scare children. Sean mocked, all while comforting the two young ones. Don't listen to his nonsense. He's just trying to scare you. Your father is perfectly fine. Are you sure about that? You can't reach Benjamin at the moment, can you? Justin eagerly waited to see them suffer, secretly hoping that something had happened to Benjamin. Gavin's face flushed red, and the way he glared at Justin resembled Benjamin. If anything happens to my father, I will never forgive you. Tisk, tisk, so fierce. Do you have any evidence? Justin curled the corner of his lips, looking quite wicked. It was rather amusing to toy with Benjamin's sons. Mr. Justin, your pasta is ready. Gideon, carrying a plate of pasta, placed it in front of Justin. He had overheard Justin's threats to the young boys from the kitchen and felt sympathy for them. With a defiant snort directed at the three people across from him, Justin finally began to eat his pasta. Gavin and Zachary were so irritated by his arrogant demeanor that they gritted their teeth. The two young ones slid off their chairs and hurried to the living room, not wanting to see his face. Are you two not eating anymore? Gideon called out anxiously. How can we eat when we're full of anger? Sean muttered coldly, then followed the young ones to their side. He really wanted to teach Justin a lesson, but considering he was on Justin's turf and for the sake of the young ones, he decided to hold his tongue. There would be plenty of opportunities for revenge in the future. Justin had better pray he would never fall into their hands, for this grudge would surely be settled. Gideon glanced at them, sighed, and turned to make a phone call to Jeremiah. Mr. Bailey, Daddy's disappearance must be related to him, don't you think? Gavin looked at Sean, hoping for news about Benjamin's safety. Based on what I know about him, if he had truly discovered your father's whereabouts, he wouldn't have appeared so calm on the surface, Sean said, gently patting Gavin's head to offer comfort. Earlier, Justin had questioned why Benjamin hadn't come in person. However, he later mentioned that something must have happened to Benjamin. It was evident that he had only made that statement to frighten them. After regaining his composure, Gavin pondered for a moment before shifting his gaze towards Zachary. Zachary stared at Justin intently, a malicious smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. Gavin, would you like to teach him a lesson? What ideas do you have? Gavin's eyes sparkled with excitement. Sean also turned his attention towards Zachary, curious to see how he would handle Justin. Zachary leaned in, whispering softly into their ears, we should approach it like this. Chapter 1614. On her way to Jacaster, Arissa instructed Bradley to help her locate Benjamin's whereabouts. There had been no contact so far, which made her fear that something might have happened. She was deeply anxious. Since they got together, they had never gone this long without contact. As the two children were kidnapped when Benjamin was not around, she worried that their enemies might also target Benjamin. While waiting for news about Benjamin, she also idly searched for information on Jeremiah. The online information was limited. Details about special personnel and family background were classified, and even their family members were untraceable. Arissa furrowed her brows, contemplating whether or not to hack into the official system to investigate Jeremiah's background. In the end, she managed to restrain herself. Let's see how things go once I reach Jacaster. Whoever dares to kidnap children is certainly no ordinary person. However, why would Jeremiah, a military man, risk his career by kidnapping 2 children? They're active in the business world, but that shouldn't conflict with him. Arissa had limited information. No one had informed her that Justin was Jeremiah's nephew, leaving her puzzled over Jeremiah's motives. Meanwhile, Timothy, Oliver, Jasper, and Jesse rushed to the hospital to visit their grandfather. Darius had been moved from the emergency room to the intensive care unit. Edwin had finished handling matters there and was preparing to rush to Jacaster to rescue the 2 boys when he saw the 4 siblings approaching. "Kids, why are you all here? Mrs. Graham doesn't know, does she?" Edwin asked anxiously, assuming that Arissa was unaware of the situation. "Mommy found out and has already gone to Jacaster to rescue Gavin and Zachary." "Mr. Whitley, how is Grandpa? Is he getting better?" Oliver asked, concerned for Darius. "Mr. Whitley, Mommy still doesn't know that Grandpa has been hospitalized. We didn't dare to tell her," Timothy told the butler, wanting to prevent him from accidentally revealing the information later on, as Arissa shouldn't be worrying too much given her current health condition. "How is old Mr. Graham doing?" "Isa has already rushed to Jacaster. Do you want to go there and help? I can take care of things here." Mary had come to the hospital with the children, hoping to be of assistance. "Mommy doesn't know we came here, but she's aware of Gavin and Zachary's situation. She has already taken people to Jacaster." Jasper glanced at Edwin and whispered, "Originally, we were keeping it a secret from Mommy, saying that Gavin and Zachary went out with you and Grandpa. We didn't expect Mommy to find out." "Mr. Whitley, how is Grandfather?" Jessie also looked toward the ward, unsure of her grandfather's condition but not daring to go in to visit. Edwin, aware of their concern for Darius, spoke to them and took the opportunity to give Mary some advice. "Old Mr. Graham is out of danger, but he was greatly distressed last night and hasn't woken up yet. We need to take good care of him. I've already arranged for a caregiver. Madam Mary, it'll be hard for you, but please take good care of the children. Also, please make frequent visits to the hospital to check on things. Whatever old Mr. Graham needs, you can have 10 handle it. I'll leave them behind here with you. I'm worried that Mrs. Graham won't be able to handle things alone, so I'll head to Jacaster as well. If old Mr. Graham wakes up, tell him not to worry. We will definitely rescue the kids." Arissa was pregnant and still receiving prenatal care. Now, she was also concerned about the 2 boys who had been kidnapped. Edwin worried that it would be inconvenient for her to go to Jacaster alone. If something were to happen and there was no one around, it would indeed be troublesome. If he went there too, at least he could assist her and they could address any issues together. "All right, you can go without worry. We'll take care of things at home." Mary nodded in agreement. "We arrived right after Isa left, so you might be able to catch up with her if you leave now." Chapter 1615. At the Hoffman residence in Jacaster. Before Zachary could even implement the plan he had thought of, Jeremiah had already returned. At that moment, Jeremiah was seated on a couch in the living room while Justin stood behind him. Sean, along with Gavin and Zachary, sat off to one side. Both parties were sizing up the other. Jeremiah's gaze shifted from Sean to the 2 little ones. The youngsters were not afraid of him, meeting his gaze head-on, even with a hint of fierceness. Their adorable, cherubic faces, paired with their determined expressions, were endearing no matter how one looked at them. The striking resemblance to Benjamin's younger self gave Jeremiah quite a shock. It was uncanny how similar they were, with an aura that was just as strong as the adult Benjamin's. Jeremiah had always been in the military, so it was rare for him to encounter a child who dared to look him straight in the eye. Deep down, this stirred his emotions, even evoking a sense of admiration. "You are Jeremiah Hoffman," Gavin and Zachary exclaimed in unison, their voices conveying certainty, not doubt. Jeremiah raised an eyebrow, admiring the courage of the 2 youngsters. "How dare you call my uncle by name? Justin, standing behind Jeremiah, voiced out in anger. Jeremiah furrowed his brows, raising his hand to signal Justin to remain silent. Justin, don't speak so harshly to the children. Jeremiah's authority was formidable, and upon his command, Justin dared not act out of line again. Yes, Uncle Jeremiah. Justin obediently closed his mouth. Sean cast a glance at Justin, who was behaving obediently in front of Jeremiah. A mocking smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. Gavin and Zachary also looked down upon Justin's demeanor, casting him a disdainful glance before shifting their gaze back to Jeremiah. Jeremiah looked at the two brothers. His voice was not as stern as it was toward Justin when he responded, "I am indeed Jeremiah Hoffman. What did you bring us here for?" After confirming that he was the culprit behind their kidnapping, Zachary didn't hold back and voiced his question. Jeremiah's gaze fell upon his puffed-up little face, an indecipherable look in them, leaving one unsure of his thoughts. Sean was afraid that Jeremiah was planning to do something to the boy, so he quickly spoke up, "Mr. Hoffman, these two are Benjamin's precious sons. Benjamin has always kept his distance from you, so what is the meaning of bringing his two children here?" Jeremiah gave him a casual glance. "Don't be nervous. I don't plan on doing anything." Sean furrowed his brow. He doesn't plan on doing anything, yet he kidnapped two children and brought them here. Who knows what he would do if he had intended to do something? These thoughts were merely grumblings in his mind. He didn't dare voice them out for fear of offending Jeremiah. In another's territory, one had no choice but to bow. "If you don't want to do anything, then why did you kidnap us? Let us go immediately." Gavin's brows furrowed tightly as he glared at Jeremiah. Kidnap. Jeremiah found it interesting to hear such a word coming from Gavin's lips. "It appears that my subordinates are inept and frightened you all. I merely instructed them to bring you here because I wanted to see you. We don't even know you, so why would you want to see us? Stop trying to make it sound nice. You kidnapped us to threaten my father, right? You wish." Zachary taunted without fear of angering Jeremiah. Jeremiah chuckled lightly. As a stern man, he had an intimidating aura even when he laughed. "Little one, aren't you afraid of me? Is there any point in being afraid? After all, we're already in your control now. You have the power to do whatever you want to us." Zachary defiantly raised his chin. Since they couldn't escape and were at the mercy of Jeremiah, they had no say in what would happen next. "No matter what you have planned, don't think you'll get away with it," echoed Gavin, who was also not easily intimidated. Jeremiah's gaze swept over them as he observed that Benjamin's children were well educated. "You don't need to worry," he said. "I simply invited you here as guests to get to know each other. Now that you're here, please make yourselves comfortable and stay for a while. If you need anything, just let Gideon know." Jeremiah's tone softened considerably, even sounding pleasant. However, anyone could sense that it wasn't genuine warmth, but rather, it was tinged with a hint of warning. Chapter 1616. Gavin and Zachary were well aware of the predicament they were in and silently cursed Jeremiah as a cunning fox. The two brothers glared at Jeremiah in annoyance, falling into silence. However, Jeremiah remained calm. Sean furrowed his brows tightly. From Jeremiah's words, it was evident that he wouldn't easily let them go. "Mr. Hoffman, if you keep them here, Benjamin and his wife will worry. They've never been away from home for this long. If you need anything, you can directly contact Benjamin. There's no need to use these two children as leverage. I won't treat you unfairly here. I simply have an affinity for the two of them. Once things are more or less settled, I'll notify Benjamin to come and pick you up." Jeremiah stood up and said. Having just returned from a business trip, he hadn't even changed his clothes yet. Ultimately, his true intention is to threaten Benjamin. Without Jeremiah's permission, it was impossible for them to leave. Now that Jeremiah had returned, an additional layer of security was added around the mansion. Sean was irritated, but he had no better solution. "Gideon, take good care of them and don't neglect them. Go prepare breakfast," Jeremiah instructed the butler before heading upstairs. "Yes, Mr. Hoffman," Gideon responded. Once Jeremiah had walked away, he turned and headed to the kitchen to prepare a meal for Jeremiah. Upon seeing this, Justin followed after Jeremiah. He felt that Jeremiah didn't bring the two boys here for no reason. Uncle Jeremiah, are you trying to send a warning to Benjamin? Thank you for helping me, but are you really letting them stay in the house? Behave yourself. Don't interfere with them. Jeremiah shot Justin a glance, then strode upstairs without further explanation. Justin watched Jeremiah ascend the stairs, a sense of joy bubbling up within him. His uncle was still willing to help him. He ran up to Sean and his group again, relishing in their misfortune. See, my uncle is still on my side. Without his approval, there's no way you're getting out of here. You're stuck here for good. Sean looked at him coldly, retorting, your uncle also said that we wouldn't be mistreated here. We simply moved to a different place to live, and our treatment will be no worse than yours. One could say their treatment was the same, except they lacked freedom. Justin's face darkened, and gritting his teeth, he said, enjoy your victory for now. I refuse to believe that my uncle will let you have it easy forever. With just one word from him, he could make you disappear forever. Justin, the stern reprimand from Jeremiah suddenly echoed, causing Justin to shudder. As he turned around, he saw Jeremiah standing on the stairs, glaring at him, already changed into a different set of clothes. Uncle Jeremiah. Justin cowered back slightly, instantly fearful. What did I just tell you? Jeremiah approached, his gaze stern. He had heard every word Justin had just said, loud and clear. I'm sorry, Uncle Jeremiah. I was wrong. Justin trembled with fear when he saw that Jeremiah was angry. This better not happen again. Watch your language, Jeremiah warned him once more. Sean found it quite amusing. Are these two putting on a show? Earlier, Jeremiah was just threatening us, but now, he's defending us. His actions are quite contradictory. Jeremiah came over and invited Sean and the two boys to dine in the dining room. We've already eaten, so we won't disturb you. Sean had never interacted with Jeremiah before, but the elders of the Bailey family had, albeit infrequently. Jeremiah had more dealings with the Graham family instead. Jeremiah didn't mind Sean's attitude, knowing well that he had a good relationship with Benjamin. He looked at Gavin and Zachary and asked, what are your names? Gavin and Zachary exchanged glances, showing little interest in interacting with Jeremiah. Join me for breakfast. Jeremiah cheerfully invited the two young boys, completely ignoring Sean's previous comment. No, thank you, Zachary replied firmly, averting his gaze. Chapter 1617. Little brat, what's with your attitude? You should feel honored that my uncle invited you for breakfast. Justin, upon seeing Zachary's arrogant demeanor, couldn't help but feel angry, and he couldn't resist scolding him. No one had ever dared to show disrespect to his uncle, yet Benjamin's child had the audacity to turn his head away. Justin, Jeremiah glanced over, causing Justin to awkwardly close his mouth. Upon seeing Justin's meek demeanor, a glint quickly flashed in Zachary's eyes. The very next second, he began to shed tears, appearing utterly aggrieved. You're all bullying me and Gavin. I want to go home. Zachary's crying was not loud wailing but more of sobbing. His nose was bright red, causing anyone who saw him to feel pity. Sean's heart clenched as he thought that the little one was truly crying. He blamed himself for his inability to take them away from here. You're all bullying us. We want to go home. We don't want to be here anymore. Upon seeing Zachary cry, Gavin also started to shed tears. There was no pretense in his actions. He genuinely longed for home, for his mother, and couldn't help but give in to his emotions. The two children suddenly bursting into tears left Jeremiah somewhat at a loss. He didn't know how to soothe them. Don't cry. All I did was invite them for breakfast. Why would that bring them to tears? You're all bad people, wanting to harm us. We just want to go home. Zachary sobbed, his shoulders shaking continuously as he continued to cry. I know your father and I am not a bad person, so stop crying. Anyone who didn't know better would think that Jeremiah was mistreating the two boys. He merely wanted to issue a warning to Benjamin, advising him not to be too harsh on Justin. After all, Justin was still his nephew. You're a bad man. Does knowing my father make you any less of one? If you're not a bad man, then why did you kidnap us? If you let us go now, we won't hold this against you. Zachary shouted, tears and snot streaming down his face. A glint flickered in Jeremiah's eyes as he discerned the child's intentions. Even if you want to go home, you still need to eat, right? If you starve yourselves, it's your own loss. HMPH. I won't eat your food. The food at home is way tastier than yours. Zachary retorted. It wasn't that he was particularly resolute, but rather, he had already eaten his fill before Jeremiah returned. Justin sneered, you guys sure had a great time this morning when my uncle was not around. It's none of your business. You're the worst. Zachary glared at him. Yeah, you even forbade us from eating just now. Gavin also glared at Justin. Jeremiah turned his head to look at Justin, who returned the gaze. In the end, he anxiously explained. Uncle Jeremiah, they've already eaten. I didn't withhold food from them. You even wanted the butler to lock us in the doghouse. Gavin accused through gritted teeth. Upon hearing this, Jeremiah's face darkened. Uncle Jeremiah, I was just trying to scare them. As you can see, they are still here, unharmed. I haven't done anything to them. Justin, knowing that Jeremiah was least tolerant of such actions, quickly explained. Coward. Zachary spat out the word with utter contempt. Justin cast a sideways glance at the boy, but with Jeremiah present, he dared not make a scene. Mr. Hoffman, your breakfast is ready. Gideon came over to inform Jeremiah. Jeremiah nodded and said, join us for breakfast. Gavin and Zachary's lips were pursed, and tears still clung to their eyelashes. They appeared pitiful yet determined. Oh dear, why are you crying? Gideon asked sympathetically, handing them tissues to wipe their tears. Go ahead and have your breakfast. I've prepared short ribs and squid ink pasta for you. Hurry and join Mr. Hoffman. Mr. Bailey, Mr. Justin, you should come over too. Don't keep Mr. Hoffman waiting for too long. Upon hearing the butler's words and smelling the enticing aroma in the air, the two children felt tempted. Come here and eat well, and maybe I'll consider informing your father to come and take you home. Jeremiah's voice echoed. With those words, the two children were indeed strongly tempted. Chapter 1618. Gavin and Zachary glanced at Sean before motioning for him to join them. Mr. Bailey, let's go eat. After all, who could say no to free food? Upon seeing the two brothers heading to the dining room, Sean quickly followed, not letting them out of his sight. Are your stomachs bottomless? You just finished eating, and now you're eating again. Justin had no patience for them, seizing every opportunity to mock and ridicule. Aren't you coming to cat as well? By that logic, your stomach must be bigger than ours, you glutton. Zachary retorted, pulling a face before running off toward the dining room. Justin gritted his teeth in frustration, but there was nothing he could do about the little rascal. His uncle had spoken, and it would be unacceptable not to accompany him for breakfast. Even if it was just for show, he had to go and sit there obediently. Seeing Justin's deflated look, Sean couldn't help but chuckle. Justin glared at him fiercely, then followed the boys into the dining room. Gavin and Zachary, familiar with the place, took their seats. The two brothers, well-mannered as they were, sat upright in their chairs, refraining from touching their cutlery until everyone had arrived. When Jeremiah saw them approaching, he offered, help yourselves to whatever you'd like to eat. Make yourselves at home. Gavin and Zachary glanced at him, but neither of the two brothers spoke. Jeremiah looked at the butler and instructed, Gideon, please bring food for the children. You two should also sit down and join me for a meal. Sean settled down next to the little ones, while Justin did not join them in the same row, instead choosing to sit on the other side. Uncle Jeremiah, I'm not lying about them having already eaten. Since you haven't had breakfast yet, please go ahead and eat. There's no need to wait for us. Justin reminded Jeremiah once again. Every time Jeremiah became busy, his meals would be irregular, so it was already considered good if he could make it back for breakfast. Jeremiah nodded and began to eat his breakfast. Gideon served the two boys the food they had previously ordered before serving some to Sean and stepping aside. I also want to eat short ribs and squid ink pasta. Justin saw that there were some left and didn't want to let the other three have it all. Yes, Mr. Justin. Gideon was about to bring the plates over to Justin but was stopped by Jeremiah. I thought you don't eat squid ink pasta. Jeremiah's gaze was sharp as he stared at Justin. He couldn't relax even when eating. Justin was speechless for a moment before he defended himself. I couldn't resist wanting to eat when I suddenly saw how delicious their food looked. After giving him a glance, Jeremiah decided to ignore him. Gavin and Zachary paid no mind to the conversation, quietly eating their own food. Gideon's culinary skills were quite impressive, although they didn't quite match up to Edwin's. Seeing the two little ones eating happily, a trace of amusement flashed in Jeremiah's eyes. Children were indeed easily satisfied. Having nearly finished his meal, Jeremiah wiped the corner of his mouth, looking at the two little ones with their chubby cheeks. Strangely enough, he didn't find these two boys annoying. In fact, after some interaction, he seemed to have developed a slight fondness for them. Was the food good? His voice had become much friendlier. Zachary's eyes flickered for a moment, but ever the proud boy, he said, just average. Jeremiah glanced at the plate in front of the boy before he smirked. Quite the food connoisseur. The plate was spotlessly clean. Zachary's little face turned red. To think I refused to eat earlier. This is truly embarrassing. Gavin, on the contrary, felt much more comfortable than him. His plate was also spotless, but he simply couldn't consume any more. And what about you? Jeremiah turned to Gavin. Not bad. Gavin was also a man of few words, even more reserved than Zachary. Jeremiah glanced at the two young boys and continued to inquire. Would you like anything else to eat? I can have Gideon prepare it. It was unclear whether they were satiated or simply hesitant to try anything else, but they had not touched any of the other breakfast items on the table. Gideon observed the two youngsters devouring their food with delight, which brought him great joy. He was also curious about what else they might request, eager to showcase his culinary skills for them. We're full, Gavin and Zachary exclaimed simultaneously. They truly couldn't consume another morsel. Chapter 1619. We had breakfast with you, so you can contact our family now. Gavin reminded Jeremiah, not forgetting his previous statement. All he wanted was to leave. Jeremiah raised an eyebrow, his gaze filled with amusement. When did I ever say that I would let you go? Instantly, the two children glared menacingly at Jeremiah. Unable to hold back, Zachary cursed, You just went back on your word, you cunning old fox. He had deceived them. Jeremiah's face, tanned from constant exposure to the sun, darkened. I just said I would consider it. I didn't promise you anything, he clarified. At that moment, Jeremiah's cell phone began to vibrate. Seeing that it was a call from the military, he hurriedly answered it. After hearing what the other party had said, Jeremiah's face turned serious. I'm on my way right now. Jeremiah rose to his feet to depart, instructing Gideon, keep a close eye on them until I return. Yes, Mr. Hoffman, I will take good care of them, Gideon responded, aware that Jeremiah had an urgent task at hand. He quickly fetched Jeremiah's briefcase and saw him out the door. Seeing Jeremiah's unusual demeanor, Justin casually asked, Uncle Jeremiah, what happened? It's none of your concern. Stay put at home, and don't interfere with them. Jeremiah glanced at the two youngsters before hurriedly leaving. The two children looked at each other, unsure of what had happened. Sean knew what Jeremiah did for a living, so he naturally understood that there could be emergencies at work at any time. Therefore, he wasn't particularly curious about it. After Jeremiah left, Sean and the two children didn't want to stay with Justin either. The three of them, in silent agreement, got up to leave. Where are you going? Justin stared at them, sensing their intention to flee. He warned, don't bother trying to escape. You won't be able to get out. Don't blame us if you end up getting hurt. Sean gave him a sideways glance. This place is guarded like an impenetrable fortress. Unless we could fly, there's no way out. Even flying was out of the question, their bodies would be riddled with bullets. Leaning back in his chair, Justin smiled. I'm glad you understand. Sean took the two children out for a stroll around the yard, using the opportunity to survey the surrounding environment. Seeing no chance to leave, Zachary started worrying about the bodyguards who came with them. He sighed and muttered, "Did the bodyguards have breakfast yet? They were detained in a different location, without being given a chance to meet." Sean glanced at the defense system within the Hoffman residence before comforting the children. "Don't worry, Jeremiah has given orders. These people wouldn't dare to cause trouble." Jeremiah's targets were only the 2 children, so he wouldn't have specific instructions on what to do with the others, which could go either way. Upon seeing Gideon carrying fruit over, Gavin questioned him, "Mr. Gideon, have the men who came with us had breakfast? Can we see them? Several of the bodyguards were injured last night, and it's unclear whether they've recovered yet." "Rest assured, everyone has been provided the same breakfast, and they've already eaten. However, you can't see them for now," Gideon replied with a smile, still showing kindness towards the children. "We are all locked up in here, so why can't we see each other? We can't even escape. Some of them were injured by your people, and we don't even know if they're getting better," Zachary pouted, genuinely worried. "Those bodyguards were very close to them and cared for them a lot. The doctor has treated them, and you can rest assured that they will definitely recover." Gideon reassured them. In reality, the bodyguards had been severely beaten, with some of them confined to bed. To reassure the children, Gideon proposed, "If you're still concerned, I can arrange for someone to take pictures for you to see. However, meeting them in person is not possible. Given the circumstances, it was also acceptable for the children to see photos and understand how the bodyguards were doing. In that case, thank you for going through the trouble." Sean made the decision on behalf of the 2 children. Gavin and Zachary had no objections either. Chapter 1620. Meanwhile, Arissa encountered Edwin in the restroom of the service area. "Mrs. Graham, I've finally caught up with you. Are you doing okay? Maybe we should take a break here for a while. I can go ahead and find Jeremiah." Edwin was concerned that Arissa might be overwhelmed by her anxiety, so he suggested that she rest before continuing on to Jacaster. "How did you manage to get here?" "I'm doing fine. We're not too far from Jacaster. It's only about an hour away. Let's rest once we arrive." She was eager to see her children as soon as possible, feeling uneasy until she could lay her eyes on them. When Edwin arrived, he brought along a gynecologist from the hospital as a precaution. "I'm worried about you, Mrs. Graham. I suggest you let the doctor examine you. It would put our minds at ease." Arissa nodded in agreement, not voicing any objections. "Let him examine me on the way. We should get there as early as possible," she replied. A night had passed, yet Jeremiah hadn't called or done anything. It was unclear what his true intentions were. They only made a brief stop at the service area before continuing their journey to Jacaster. Arissa was very cooperative, allowing the doctor to conduct an examination. "Edwin, come over here. Does Dad know?" Arissa was also concerned about her family. Now that Edwin had left, only Darius and Mary were at home with the other children. "Old Mr. Graham isn't at home. I have asked Madam Mary to inform him that I would accompany you on a trip to clear your mind." Edwin didn't dare to let Arissa know that Darius was in the hospital. When he left, Darius had not yet awakened. Arissa nodded. "That's good. Dad is getting older. It's better not to let him know." Giving Darius a shock was no laughing matter. Edwin felt a bit guilty and didn't dare to look at her. Just as the doctor finished the examination, he took the opportunity to inquire about her condition. Fortunately, there was nothing unusual about Arissa's health. "Mrs. Graham, you should rest for a while. I'll call you when we arrive," Edwin suggested to Arissa as he brought out a blanket for her. Arissa was pregnant and prone to fatigue, but her concern for her children prevented her from resting. However, she still took the blanket and covered herself, then asked Edwin about Jeremiah. "Edwin, do you know Jeremiah? Is there any animosity between our family and him?" "Yes, I know him. There were conflicts, but nothing significant. Back when old Mr. Graham was still a commander, he had spent some time with him." Edwin relayed what he knew to Arissa. Arissa inquired further, "What is their relationship like?" "It was fine. We were neither close nor estranged. It was simply a typical superior-subordinate relationship. Arissa furrowed her brows in confusion. From the looks of it, she figured that there wasn't any conflict. Why then did he kidnap Gavin and Zachary? Our family has never offended him. Oh, that's right, he is Justin Rogers' uncle. Justin and Mr. Benjamin have always been at odds. Edwin, despite growing old and forgetful, suddenly remembered and told Arissa about it. It could have been Justin's idea, but I'm not certain. Justin Rogers. After some thought, Arissa finally remembered who he was. If it is indeed him, he must have come to seek revenge on Benjamin. She had no idea how things were going with Benjamin, as there was still no news up until now. Arissa tightly clutched her mobile phone. She didn't receive any calls from him, while Bradley couldn't trace his whereabouts. Essentially, they had lost all contact. Could something has happened to him? Arissa's heart began to throb with anxiety. Meanwhile, deep underground in the desert of the western region, Benjamin and his group had been trapped for a considerable amount of time. Cut off from all communication, they were unable to contact the surface. What concerned them even more was the fact that this hidden vault was completely filled with illegal goods. The potential consequences of these items ever being released into circulation were beyond imagination. Mr. Graham, these things. Ethan shuddered at the thought of such a scenario. Who could have set up such an elaborate trap for us? Benjamin squinted his eyes as he surveyed the neatly arranged boxes. He then proceeded to give instructions to the group. Everyone, remain calm and continue moving forward. It was evident that they had fallen into a meticulously planned trap.